Welcome to
Ask
Ask
Us
Us
Anything!
Anything. Welcome to today's Netflix animation panel. We'll be discussing recruiting and art positions. My name is Jane Lee. I am a she, her person. I'm an animation exec at Netflix, and I am surrounded in boxes by my stunning colleagues who are in our talent team. I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves. Please say your name, your pronouns, what roles you hire for, and then as an icebreaker question, please tell me your favorite preparation of potatoes. And if somebody here does not like potatoes, number one, I'm judging you. Number two, fake it till you make it. So I'm going to start off with Luana.
Hey everybody, my name is Luana Kasich. I am a recruiting researcher here at Netflix Animation. My pronouns are she and her. I'm excited to talk to you about art roles, and my favorite kinds of potatoes are fries.
Yes. Okay. This is great. No judgment there. Ramil.
Okay, so my name is Ramil. I am a recruiting researcher for art and design on the adults animation space for Netflix Animation. And my favorite potatoes are potatoes au gratin.
AKA cheesy potats, right?
They're delicious.
Cheesy potats?
I think so. I don't know what it means.
I'm gonna Google this later. Amelia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amelia. My pronouns are she, her. I am a recruiter for our series animations. I mainly focus on the art world, so all design, paint roles. My favorite potatoes, hash browns. Lots of salt, lots of hot sauce. It's my fave.
Yes, great choice. And Robin.
I just want lunch now. But anyway, hey, my name is Robin Lin. I'm one of the outreach and engagement managers here at Netflix Animation. My pronouns are he, him, his, and my favorite potato, seasoned curly fries.
Oh, that's really fancy.
Fancy.
Yeah.
With a little ranch maybe on the side.
I like that you said seasoned curly fry as if it's like TM. Appreciate. All right, everybody, my friends, let us start off with like the number one question that's burning in everyone's brains, which is where do you source talent and candidates? That.
I'm happy to jump in first.
Go for it, Amelia.
I would say there's so many places we can look. I would definitely say we more focus on the art side, so things like Instagram and ArtStation, where we can find or any and every piece of art that you've ever put out. We also do look through IMDb and LinkedIn. I know I sometimes watch, when I'm watching animations, I will like pause, drives my fiance crazy. I will pause the credits every single scene and be like, okay, let me write down all these names, what these people do. It's also how I find people, because that's so lots of different ways, but those are just a few.
Yeah, definitely. To go off of that, Instagram is a great platform for us lately, especially with the different hashtags that you can use. So if you're posting your art and you're hashtagging visual development, character design, prop design, or if you're not, don't forget to do that. That's really helpful for us as we're kind of sourcing through the World Wide Web.
I personally love ArtStation just because of the filtering tools that you can do in the search bar, and it's like so robust compared to a lot of social media sites. Also, it's like really clean, so ArtStation is my go-to first.
Yeah, there are other ones too, like Behance or Dribble, that have that kind of search functionality as well. So depending on where you are or what your platform aesthetic is, there are definitely multiple areas that you can upload your work to.
Luana, you had mentioned for Instagram, it's obviously helpful to add hashtags to follow certain art trends. Ramil, I'm curious for an ArtStation or other platforms where you're saying, oh, the search function is more robust. Is there anything that users of those platforms can use to make their artwork pop?
I believe it's they also use hashtags, but I think they can also like tag their own art or portfolios or their profiles, I believe. So you can like search by character designers or background or environment or CG concept. Like there's so many different tagging systems in ArtStation.
And your tool sets too. I think if you're kind of leaning more into the CG pipeline, or for art, it's Photoshop, InDesign, etc. Your tool sets are also selectable or taggable in ArtStation.
Searchable?
Searchable? All the above? Able?
Googleable?
Feel like a bowl. um, so for all of you, what makes somebody's artwork pop?
So I'm happy to jump in on this one. I think, looking through portfolio after portfolio, something that catches my eye pretty consistently is when somebody has a strong sense of style and kind of their individual style. And that's going to be different for everybody. But I think when it comes to, this individual style, a lot of that has to do with consistency. Can I see your style across, not only character work, but also in your environment building and your world building? Does that touch every piece that you put forward? And so that's something that always kind of grabs my attention and leaves me wanting more to say.
Yes. I love unique stuff. Like I love seeing people's like you said, Luan, like unique style. I want to see something crazy that I've never before, seen before. I feel like those portfolios stand out to me and so much more memorable. But then also, as well as bringing in your unique style, also just making sure, you're focusing on the technical side. We want to make sure that we're putting people forward that kind of what we call production ready. So, have the draftsmanship, they have, turnaround sheets, or they have just the line work as well as fully painted backgrounds, whatever it might be. We also want to see that side, but I definitely think the main thing that catches my eye is definitely uniqueness.
I am a geek for shape language, right? If someone can take an apple and then push that apple as far as you can possibly take it, but it's still recognizable as an apple, that gets me really excited. Where they're not just bound by the physicality of the object, but they're looking for the emotion or the spirit or the sense of the object and really pushing it and trying something new and, just breaking the mold that everybody else has established.
This is super interesting because I think everyone's kind of touching on like, hey, it's important to bring your own point of view. And then Amelia, you had mentioned like certainly certain technical aspects are important. So I'm curious, in somebody's like art Instagram or on ArtStation or these other platforms, like what's the balance where you're like, here's my unique, way of doing art, but then here's where I can showcase technical stuff, the draftsmanship, like what's the right balance, and or should they be omitting certain things? Curious.
Yeah, I actually love, and this might just be a personal preference, I actually love seeing things from the beginning. On Instagram, I've seen people do a lot of this, the time lapses, the really quick time lapses, and seeing someone draw something from, really rough and to finalizing it. Instagram also has that great function where you can select multiple photos. So you can maybe have the finished piece is the first one. And then, if you keep scrolling through, you could have like the turnaround, say if it's a character, a turnaround sheet, expression sheet is the next one. And like I said, I love seeing those like time lapse drawings. I think they're super cool. And I love seeing just rough sketches of seeing how, seeing what that final piece looks like, and then bringing it all the way to back. But I think Instagram is something you can really cater just to like a quick, snapshot of what your work is. And if you want to kind of go into more in depth, if some people don't have all of the technical side in their Instagram, they just want to have their final pieces, which is just a preference, and maybe putting that in your portfolio. It's super helpful when people already put their portfolios in their Instagram, their portfolio, their profile page. That's super helpful. But yeah, I think it's a preference. I wouldn't say it's necessary to have, especially those time lapses probably take forever to do, but I think it's up to everyone to do their kind of their own thing.
Yeah, I love to see process and sketches. I love to see all the pencil mileage. How they arrived at that final image is just as important for me as the final image itself. So show your sketches. Show, like here's 10 silhouettes that I broke down to 5 silhouettes that I broke down to 1 final character. Take me on that journey with you. A good portfolio reads like a story, and we can follow that story along till its conclusion.
In process, it's equal to problem solving. So if we are able to see how you process from start to finish, we're able to see how you're able to solve problems that you can come across in production. That's everything. If we're talking about character work, it's everything from like exploration, posing sheets, turnarounds, all the way till your final comp and, into a concept design or illustration too. So all of that is important, I would say, definitely.
I'm going to direct this question to Ramil. I'm curious to know from your point of view as a researcher, how much do you want to see of original characters or original designs, original art, and like kind of more of this, draw this in your own style, like fan art, like that kind of artwork, which I feel like when I'm on Instagram, there's always both.
I like seeing a bit of a mix, especially for me, if I'm sourcing for something kind of particular or for a particular role, I kind of want to see like more production ready work. But I definitely love seeing like fan art, especially if it's done in like that production style where they'll take like specific IP and like iterate on the characters and like turnarounds or like a character sheet and like just really make it their own and like show that they have that kind of thought process and thinking to kind of adapt to a production. So I love seeing a little bit of both.
Yeah, I would say Instagram's great for fan art, and then portfolio is, I would say individual, or if it's a project you've worked on, that's, obviously you can include that. But I love seeing on Instagram, I love seeing people's fan arts and people's iterations. I definitely would echo that too, Ramil.
Cool. Super helpful. Sounds like everybody should do a little bit of everything. I'm so helpful, right? So just to switch subjects, curious to know, what are the different entry-level roles that all of you hire for in art? This is an art panel.
I'm happy to kick it off. So it depends on the role. Some people just assume crop design, color design are entry-level roles. I would say it actually just depends on the team, the production. I've seen, character designer roles be entry-level because maybe they're, hired later in the production schedule and they might be on like the second design team, background designers. I think it's more about showcasing that you are production ready, and then it just depends. I think like I was kind of saying, every role could be entry level. I would say people typically treat color design and prop design as entry level, but they might not be. Sometimes someone's like, a show is like, no, this prop designer needs to be amazing. They also need to know FX too, and so it just depends on the show. It depends on what the needs are at the time.
Yeah, on the feature side, we don't have like prop and color design necessarily. That's all kind of wrapped into visual development and character design. So I think, when we're looking at more entry-level roles, we're kind of looking at more of the packaging and asset creation as opposed to the concept design and ideation portion of it. So when you're looking at more of these entry-level opportunities, we're really looking for, are you able to hit the technical need that we have here? And again, that's going to be that asset creation work. So, that does boil down to props, that does boil down to color palettes and keys. That's also, turnarounds and posing and that kind of work that you would expect in these kinds of roles.
Gotcha. So it feels like the roles that are a little bit more entry level might be more execution oriented versus, like you would say, like ideation.
Yes.
And then for candidates that unfortunately get a rejection letter, do you have any advice? Like, are they allowed to reapply?
I'll take this one. I think improvement is definitely something that I would look for if someone's going to reapply to a role. I think just, even reaching out to a researcher or recruiter and like asking what they can do to their portfolio to make it better would be helpful. I think in terms of our team, we love seeing people improve and like take on like feedback, and it kind of shows like what you can do in a production and how are you taking, advice or tips.
Yeah, and I would say, oh, sorry, go ahead, Luana.
Recruiters in the industry don't need to be your only source of feedback. The community is fantastic, and we're so lucky to be amongst people who are really kind and generous with their time, and there are tons of mentorship opportunities as well. So I would say tap into your community and your network and ask for advice, ask for a couple other pairs of eyes to get on it as well. But, agree with Ramil there that definitely reapplying with updated work is something that we always look forward to seeing.
Yeah, and like Luana was saying, reach into your community or develop a community. Go on Instagram, find an artist you really admire and really like, and message them saying, I'm just starting out. I would love for you to critique my work. And then, 9 out of 10 may not respond, but the one that does, and they critique your work, take those changes, incorporate them into your work, and send it back and say, I took your advice. Is this better? That's not only are you getting better at your craft, you're building a relationship with a professional artist in the industry. At some point, a recruiter may tap him on the shoulder and say, do you know anybody we can hire? And he'll go, that person took my feedback. They went the extra step.
Amelia, do you also have some Amelia words of wisdom?
No, Luana and I are always on the same wavelength. She literally took the words out of my mouth. I would definitely say, it's definitely great to reach out to recruiters and researchers for feedback, but just know we get a lot of those messages. So sometimes we're not as timely as much as I would love to be. I definitely think reaching out to industry professionals, also because they're the ones, actually doing the job. They're the ones that have even, more minute details than even we might have. So I definitely think reaching out to industry professionals, networking. I know it's scary, but this is such a nice and close-knit community animation. So I definitely think it's worth the time. It's worth the input to reach out to people. And yeah, you may not, 90% of the time you may never hear back from people, but the small percentage you do, they're the people that are really going to help you. And as much as hard as it is to get feedback on your art, because it's something you put your heart and soul into, just take it as it's constructive. It's not meant to be negative. It is really that people are trying to help you. So take the advice. Basically just use it to be better, because that's what the feedback is for.
Cool. And I know there's 4 of you, that's a bunch, talked about wanting to track improvement. So for candidates that might have not made it to a certain level for one role, if there hasn't been any other roles posted, like how often do you expect, or would you like for people to kind of touch base, or like come back and be like, hey, look, I've improved in this way. Like, is that an okay thing to do? Or should they only reach out when there's roles?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I wouldn't say reach out only when there's roles, because we don't post everything, just because a lot of our projects aren't announced. But in terms of a timeline, I wouldn't say like a specific thing, like, check back in once a month. I would more say it's like when you have new work to share with us, or you're about to, maybe you found a freelance gig or a short-term gig somewhere, and then you have new work to add to your portfolio from that. I feel like that's the best time to check back in with us, because that way we can be like, okay, great. Like maybe we have something, that's a fit based off your improvements, or, what the other work you did. So I wouldn't say put a time frame on it. I would more say like when you actually have an update for us, that's the best time to check in.
Gotcha.
I would agree with that too. Just to add to Amelia's thought, I'd say I get a couple new pieces maybe like every month from some folks, and if anything, it brightens up my day, because love looking at new art for sure. But I think, in terms of touching base with a significant update, that's going to hold a lot more weight for us on the recruitment side, to be able to say, okay, let me go shop around your new portfolio to see if anything resonates then on our side. If you want to stay on our radar and kind of, let us track your work as you ramp up, then, pieces every now and again, great, awesome. Serious consideration will probably go to, a larger lift on your portfolio as a whole.
I would agree. And the one thing I have seen people doing recently, they've actually been tagging me in their Instagram art.
Ooh,
I actually love that.
cool.
It's a really easy, quick way. I think it's a really quick way just to like be like, hey, I just got a tag, let me go look at it. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, let me go look through the rest of this person's portfolio, Instagram. So that's actually been a really cool, fun way. I never thought of that until people started doing it. I was like, artists are smart. This is so clever.
Amelia's gonna get tagged from here on out.
I love it.
You did it to yourself.
Yeah, it's that alchemy that happens when you want to elevate yourself up from candidate to a human being, right? You want to be like, oh, that's so-and-so. I know their work. I've seen their progress. I know where they're going. I know what they're thinking about. When that happens and you get into a recruiter's head, that's gold, right? That's what you want to be, is to elevate yourself up to, someone who we've seen grow.
Mm-hmm. And I think in addition to that, sharing new art often without the strings attached of this means you're going to get me a job is something that you need to keep in mind, because it's not necessarily always an opportune moment. But the thing with Netflix animation, at the very least, because there's so much going on, it's not if, it's when, so if you're on the radar and you're consistent and we've formed this relationship that, you can share your art with me and I'm going to appreciate it. When the time comes that your new piece of art really resonates with this open role, like hopefully we can make that connection, and it's even stronger because of that relationship that's built.
It's really more casting, right? We're looking for the right opportunity, for the right level of talent, and to get that going. Not just like, oh, this guy's good, we'll just throw him on a reel. It's much more curated an experience than that.
I love that all of you are kind of talking about building a relationship, being a human and not like picture on screen and all that kind of stuff. So, spicy question for the group, which is, are these type of events like Lightbox Expo and other type of things, are those useful or helpful to build those relationships? Or, is it more like you are one in a massive folks that are approaching me at this moment?
It's a mix of both, probably. Yeah. Honestly, I always find events like this super useful because it's a great way for our community to come together and celebrate each other and get super hyped on what each of us are doing. And it's a great place to go shopping. What's up, Artist Alley? Coming to you soon.
No.
I think we're living in such a great age now where making connections outside of these events is completely possible to do, and the events themselves are maybe in support of that, another touch base where we can get to know each other on a deeper level. I definitely think that they're very valuable.
Yeah, they're super overwhelming because I'll definitely say just nonstop talking for 3-4 days straight. By the end of it, my voice is gone, but I still think they're super valuable. I love seeing people in person, especially because a lot of the time, we're just talking over video or just on the phone. So getting to actually meet people in person is I love it. It's so much fun. And yeah, I love going down Artist Alley. Like I've already messaged some of my favorite artists and be like, I am gonna come and visit you in virtually
with my credit card in hand.
Yes.
And if you find out who's going to be at these events, right, take advantage of that and say, hey, you're going to be at Lightbox. Are you free Thursday afternoon at 2? I'm just going to stop by. Make an appointment. It doesn't have to be rando. It can be something a little bit more thought out, and use these to your advantage. I will say that this is probably not the place for wallflowers. You're probably going to want to kind of work on your social skills, how to shake hands, how to make eye contact, all of that stuff, and present yourself well to us and to the industry.
Such strong pro tips. I'm also curious from everybody else in this panel, do you have any other pro tips on how to be, for these candidates that approach you all, to be more memorable and to pop in a positive way?
I can still remember someone who had a bottle of hand sanitizer they brought with them. And before they shook my hand, they were like, squirt, squirt. And then it's like, I thought that was so thoughtful because we're shaking really nice. 8 million hands. And this is pre-COVID, right? Yeah. And I will always remember that candidate, like, squirt, squirt. Fantastic. Loved it.
Anybody else have some helpful tips on how to be memorable?
I think just being what's a good word for this? Sorry, Amelia, if you had a ready thought, maybe you
I
should go.
already thought I've seen some really cool, like, 'cause, you know, in these things, people hand out a lot of business cards, which I love. I feel like I've seen people do some really crazy things. Like some people's business cards are like stickers and like just crazy shapes. And I know that's something super small, but I feel like people like business cards is a huge thing. A huge thing. If you've seen those events, people just sometimes just add their business cards to these tables, and there's like hundreds of them. But I always find like the really crazy ones just always stick out in my mind. I'm always like, oh, I remember that artist or that business card.
Memorable swag. Swag that is functional because it also
Yeah.
has contact info, which I'm learning is
Mhm.
put your contact info on everything.
Everything.
Absolutely. Have an email address or anywhere we can contact you for sure. I've gotten like pieces of like samples where people have given them to me without like any contact info, and then I have like no way to get back to people.
Yeah.
afterwards.
We
Why
love
people-
free stuff.
We do.
But also give us your name.
Or just if I can get back to you.
Yeah. Why do people have LinkedIn profiles that don't have contact information? What is the point? It's like, this is the product I'm trying to sell. Try and find me.
Some people just want to be an enigma.
Serious, yeah.
You always want what you can't have.
Oh, touche.
That's it. That's it. Your dating history in a nutshell, right there.
But wait, like knowing that you all kind of sometimes get material or see things that don't have any name or contact info, do you actually take the time to dig around and research and find that? Or is it kind of at that point, like not enough time in the universe, got to move on?
If it's amazing, we'll definitely try to. I feel like being a recruiter, you're kind of a professional stalker.
Yeah.
It's seriously,
We have our
like,
wily ways.
we do. Like, we can find people. I think if it's something amazing, yeah, I'll definitely take the time to try and find someone. Or like even ask people, be like, hey, do you know who did this? Yeah.
Reverse Google image search, that's sicker. Yep.
Yep. Friend of a friend of a friend of a friend.
But it seems like the PSA is really, please make it easier on this wonderful team. Please put your contact info.
Only if you want to get hired. That's
Yeah.
all.
Ooh, and you know what else? Also, like, give us your password, because like that's another thing I find on portfolios. Like, trying to dig for someone's password can take up so much time, and sometimes I might forget about it. I feel like if you have a portfolio password, just let the recruiters know, so that way we can actually see your work.
Yeah, it'll be buried in like some little weird little bit of script, like password. Like, come on, right up front.
Lower the barriers.
You have to assume that the people who are looking at your work are, not that we are, but assume that we're disinterested, bored, 10,000 things on our plate, and make it as easy as possible for us to find all your information without going down these rabbit hole searches.
Yeah, not only for the researchers and recruiters, but also for the hiring teams, because the researchers and recruiters are really good at going through portfolios and going through websites to find all of that information, but also when it comes down to the production teams looking at your portfolio and website, it's really good to have everything kind of be at top level.
Fair enough. In terms of the stuff that you are all looking at, like, do you have the expectation that everything posted in a portfolio is going to be final, polished images, or are sketches okay, or something else in between?
Going back to our last conversation about this, I think process images are really, really good. They give you a really good idea of how people think and how people kind of work through problems or problem solving through their artwork. So I like seeing those accompanying final art as well.
Yeah,
Yes,
and I think yeah, I was
Go
gonna say, but whatever you're putting in your portfolio, just making sure, even if it's rough and sketched, just, make sure the final image is like your best, most amazing work. I feel like some people fall down the rabbit hole of hearing, oh, we want to see everything, and even process sketches and iterations and rough drawings. I feel like as long as it's your best work, and even if it's fine, going through the process, we always want to see your best work, because you're always going to be judged on your weakest piece. And that's everyone. That's us. That's productions. So whatever you're putting into your portfolio, just make sure it's the most amazing thing you've ever created. And the stuff you've maybe done 5-6 years ago, really take a good look at it and be just like, is this exactly how I would do it today, or would I do it differently? kind of consider those older pieces maybe to take them out. But really, it still include kind of the iterations and rough drawings, but just make sure everything is just super polished in the kind of final designs.
There's a balance though, right? Because those early sketches have a lot of life. Like a well-drawn line of motion can really capture the character. And if you polish too much, you might polish all the life right out of that image, and you get something that's very well done, but lifeless and dead, right? So balance that.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is we're in the business of storytelling, right? And when you think about, you know, how you want to present your portfolio, you really want to be able to tell us a story. You want us to be able to follow along with you. Does your story tell us that you can do the fundamentals with sketching and figure drawings? You know, do you have a good grasp of how to build worlds or characters, and what does that look like when you put pen to paper, you know, throughout your beginning process all the way to final piece? So, you know, something to think about as you're kind of putting together or revamping your portfolios and keeping them updated is really, are you giving us the best story that you could possibly give about you and the way that you produce your work?
Hmm. On that note, in terms of some of the artwork you might see in somebody's portfolio, do you look for different things when it's art for features versus art for a series?
Yes.
Yep.
So I focus on some of our features roles here moving forward. And there is a difference when it comes to art for series and art for features. I think, you know, that line is getting murkier by the day, I think, as we see more and more cinematic episodic work come forward. But still, it's that cinematic piece that's more kind of geared towards features. So again, you know, we mentioned previously that the art roles for feature really come down to visual development and character design. And so you're not just doing line work, you're also doing the paint along with it. And yeah, I think when it comes to, depending on whether you're 2D versus CG, your designs kind of have to shift to accommodate that as well. There's a lot more weight to not only the world, but the characters, and other things to kind of keep in mind that really fundamentals in art really do help with. Amelia, I don't know if you want to take over for the series side.
Yeah, I'd say for series, I think if someone's portfolio is very cinematic and it's very dramatic, and I'm just like, oh, it's beautiful to look at, it does cross my mind, is this person the right for series, especially if they haven't worked on series before, just because the timing and the pace and the production schedule is just vastly different. It is a lot quicker. That's why series aren't typically those big, you know, masterful cinematic pieces, because it's an episodic schedule. It's bam, 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 bam. And if you're taking, you know, super long to create these gorgeous pieces, that may not, you know, translate into the series kind of timing, which is super important. So that's why typically series are 2D and typically features are CG. But like Luana said, the lines are definitely blurring in that. But that's why 2D is typically on the series side, is because you can go really quick with and not necessarily have to create those beautiful masterpieces that the feature world typically does.
I have a follow-up question for Ramil. Working in the adult space, I know that you've kind of got some more cinematic series kind of coming through. Are you finding that like you're pulling from a lot of features talent pools as opposed to series talent pools, or are you seeing a mix of both?
Well, adult animation is kind of like really breaking open in terms of like the genre of what they're looking for. We have projects that are a little bit more cinematic or more like limited series, like Love, Death, and Robots, where, you know, they'll be looking at artists that have a really strong phys dev background, or even on what is it, like live action portfolios for storyboards for those really cinematic scenes. But it really, really depends on the project. But it's definitely all over the place. We're even looking in, like, I think, concept art for games too.
Oh, I mean, okay. I noticed that all three of you folks use the word cinematic, which in my brain, I'm like, I think I know what that means. But for the sake of clarity, can you describe like what does cinematic mean when translated to technical skill or artwork one might see in a portfolio?
Yeah, I can take this one on. So cinematic pieces in a portfolio are I would say fleshed out further. So you're not just building a set or a scene, you're building a world. You're not just, figuring out a character for the season. It's, again, a part of that world. So are you going to be able to really iterate and expand on this concept to be able to bring us to an entirely new place and all of the stories that happen within it? I think something to think about visually is the concept of how are you using light to tell a story? How are you using your camera placement to tell a story? How are you using your design in the environment or in the characters to tell a story? And every bit of that is so important.
And I would say a super simplistic answer is cinematic is just way more detailed.
Also that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Detail. Noted. Okay, get ready. Scene change. New question.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I know. Everybody do a wipe. Everyone screen wipe. Wow, and you guys actually follow along. Thanks. Thanks for hearing me. Okay, what does somebody do if they see you in the wild? What is the best approach or no approach?
One of our recruiters tells a story of a candidate following her into the bathroom. Probably don't do that. Probably don't do that. I'll let the recruiters here take on a lot of this, but just approach them as you would anybody else. Like, don't be. I think the biggest answer is don't be intimidated. I never understand why candidates are intimidated by recruiters. Right? You have to understand that you do the art. We don't, so we kind of need you. So if we're looking at the scale of this relationship, guess what? You're a little bit up here. We're here to help you.
Yeah, I would say we're definitely humans. Please don't be intimidated. Sometimes I'm intimidated by people because, like, I admire them as an artist. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna meet this person, and it's super scary, but it's amazing. So I would definitely say don't be intimidated. I haven't had someone follow me to the bathroom, but I've definitely had people follow me around, and they think I don't notice, and I hear them. They're like, oh, she's wearing a Netflix shirt, or and they're with a friend, and they'll be like, oh, you should go talk to her. And I was like, I just like one time I turned around, and I was like, hi, and I just kind of talked to her. I feel like I probably embarrassed them. I feel terrible. If you know who you are, I'm so sorry. But I definitely think just come up to us, just talk to us. Maybe not in the bathroom. Maybe if we're on a break, maybe not, but if you just see us walking the floor or we're at our booth, feel free to come up to us. We are human and we love talking to artists. It's our job. We love it. That's why we do it.
Yeah, speaking to Amelia's point, just really be human and sociable and realize we're humans too, and just, come up and say hi. I think that's the best way to say hi and introduce yourself.
Yeah, definitely just come say hi. From the introvert perspective, it's also very hard for me to say hi to people first off, which is so weird that I'm doing this, but just know that I feel you. and really the first step is just to say hello, and the rest kind of comes naturally because we're all there to talk about what we love doing. And so just keeping that in mind maybe helps break down that barrier a little bit at the very least.
And for everybody, I feel like everyone has the situation in their brains where it's like, recruiter in the wild at an event, but how about IRL, like supermarket, store, all that kind of stuff? Do the same rules still apply in terms of it is okay to approach somebody when they're like off working hours?
Oh my God, if someone did that, I'd feel like a celebrity. If they like came up to me and recognized me, I've never had that happen. I probably would be cool with it. It depends how I look. If I'm at the supermarket, sometimes I might be in sweats and who knows, and then hopefully I'm not recognizable, but I still think it's fine. I would be okay with it, but I guess it's also kind of, it's people's preference and other two people's choices, what they like.
I mean, as long as you're not looking for like a full-on portfolio review in the middle of the frozen aisle, like while I'm trying to get my ice cream.
I was going to say, read the room and read the situation if you think it's reasonable to come up to you.
Yeah, dinner with the family, maybe not the best time, but other than that, I have had it happen. I have been recognized at a pet store. Like, are you Lynn, do you work? It's like, yeah. And they gave me an elevator pitch, right? They just, a biz dev art, that's fine, that's fine, right? And we get into recruiting because we want to help people land their dreams, right? To get a job in the industry that we love. So case by case basis, but yes, of course, like Ramil said, be human, read the room, and then go forward.
I don't think there's anything wrong with ever just saying hi and introducing yourself and at least creating a touch point, if nothing else, that you can like come back to being like, hey, it was fun running into you at the grocery store via Instagram later. Then, that's a memorable.
Yeah, again, elevate yourself up from just a name to a human being.
Oh, I like that. Be a human. Don't be a name. Whoa. Okay. Also, question for you folks, which I feel like I'm sure a lot of different candidates have, is how long do you spend on somebody's portfolio or Instagram or whatever before you're like, yay or nay?
Depends how good it is.
Or how bad it is.
Lana said it.
Well, I mean, like Amelia said earlier, you want to put your best pieces forward as something that's really going to captivate us. So I could spend, 10 seconds or like half an hour to an hour digging in. And I'm either going to be, if I'm spending that much time, I'm either really intrigued or really confused, one of those. So.
I mean,
yeah. I would also say like how easy it is to navigate through your portfolio. Like I've had some portfolios where I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. I was saying earlier before we even got on recording, there's this pet peeve I have, and it's when there's arrows to go through portfolios, but they're hidden, and I don't know if I should be like clicking forward. Is there a forward option? But there's no way to know. It drives me crazy. Make it just super like easy to read and go through, because if it's too complicated, I have to figure out if there are hidden arrows, and I have to make sure I'm hitting the right spot on the page to go forward in your portfolio. I may just give up in frustration. So I'd say organization, making it so it's like super user friendly, because if I'm struggling, I guarantee you the productions might be struggling too.
Oh my gosh, I want to hear everybody's portfolio pet peeves. Great question, Amelia.
Yeah, right. You heard mine. It's definitely unseen arrows and unorganized portfolios, but like unseen arrows is the biggest pet peeve for me. It's such a weird one.
Definitely navigation for me. And going back to that business card thing, like contact info readily available somewhere I can find it. Some people don't have their like emails in their portfolio, and it's wild. I'm just like, where is it? How do I connect with you?
Boy, mine would be like, I love best work up front, as opposed to here's the drawings I did in my freshman year, my sophomore year, my junior year, and here are my final images. Like I love the path, but let's work in reverse. The best stuff up front, and then take me on the journey, not the other way around.
Yeah, I agree with all of this. I think, if you have several kind of gallery pages, labeling them correctly and just kind of organizing them in a way that makes sense, whether it's by like project by project or department by department, making it a little bit easier for me to navigate to where I really want to go to see the work that I need to see. Also, if I have to click on an image and then click out of that image to click on the next image, that's like, it's not that hard. It's just like an extra click, but like, please.
You're gonna give up clicking. Yeah, you're just gonna like give up clicking after like 5 clicks. You're gonna be like, okay, that's enough clicking for today.
Yeah, I worked with an art director who said no more than 3 clicks. If I have to click more than 3 times, I'm out.
Literally? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a couple of folks kind of talked about like formatting of a portfolio. Like Robin, you had said, start with like the best stuff up front. Do you have any other tips in terms of like format or construction of a portfolio that, knowing that sometimes you spend very little time, that could help set people's portfolios up for success?
I would say simple is best. I've seen people use really crazy colored backgrounds and it distracts from the art. Luana kind of pointed out, breaking it by project or by discipline. If you do props in character, breaking it up that way, it just makes it easier to see for us. But I would definitely just say the simpler the better, to be honest. I feel like you want your art to speak for itself. And instead of having some sort of crazy, really colorful, lots of moving images in your portfolio, just keep it simple and clean. That's my preference.
Yeah, a well-tailored portfolio that's very simple and easy to navigate would be like ideal for me. Just because we go through so many, and not only is our team going to be looking at it, we're also going to send it to production teams who have way less time than we do.
Yeah. Imagine if like a creator saw your portfolio, do you think they'd be like, oh, this is beautiful, or like, ooh, you know?
I remember a candidate when their name came up, lens flare. And I thought, oh no, lens flare across your name, please.
I mean, unless you're really gonna lean into like that Microsoft Word, like clip art
Yeah,
stuff, like in that case, great.
This is not your MySpace page. Lens flare.
Oh yeah, and auto playing music. Don't have auto playing music.
Oh no. Never.
I haven't tried that yet, but I am not looking forward to it now that you mentioned it.
Your headphones will blow off. It just.
Yeah, no, I like have been scared. Like, oh my God, where is it coming from? Yeah.
Noted. Everybody out there, have a well curated, simple but elegant portfolio. That's
without a lens flare.
lens flare.
Or all of a lens flare.
Lean into it if you're going to do it.
Yeah. It's like
Christopher Nolan film, right? All lens flares.
I'll be very impressed. Okay, question for our recruiting friends in terms of roles and candidates that you see. What do you feel like, generally speaking, is a ratio between candidates that move forward and candidates that don't?
That's a tough one. I think it really depends on the role. If it's a general kind of job posting that's up, calling for all prop designers, that's definitely going to be like a more divisive ratio of people that qualify versus people that don't. If it's something that's really show specific and we're kind of tailoring that job posting to what the team is really looking for, not only stylistically, but experientially, technically, it's going to kind of differ because, people, depending on what they're reading the job description, hot tip, read the job description. Or if, they're self-selecting out of it, that ratio might not be as high in terms of the difference between those numbers.
Okay, so it's not like I must see X many candidates before I make a decision. Like there's no quotas or anything like that. It's just
no.
Sometimes we see we have searches and we only need to send shows 10 people. We can hire someone. Some shows we've sent them like 200 people and we may hire someone after that. So it just depends on the show, on the needs, on the art director or production designer. So there's so many different variables. There's definitely no specific number in mind to hit.
Yeah. And ideally, we are going through all the applications and getting back to folks. So I know that's a topic that has come up previously, I think across the entire industry in terms of hearing back from recruitment teams. It's hard out there, y'all, like no doubt. And that doesn't make it right to not hear back from a recruitment team. But I think as we move forward, transparency, communication, definitely going to be something that's top of mind for us, for sure.
Well, that leads me to the next question, which is if there's a candidate that applied to, let's say, multiple roles and they haven't heard back and it's been weeks, perhaps months, does that mean that that candidate isn't moving forward? And if not, like, what is the best, action to take at that point?
I can take this one again. So typically when you apply to a job, and hopefully this goes for more than just our studio, but you'll get a thank you response after you hit that submit button that says, we'll take some time to check out your portfolio. And if anything, we're keeping you on our radar for what might be a good fit. Again, it's not if, it's when for Netflix animation, right? Typically, if somebody is being rejected from a role, the hope is that you would get that rejection email. So whether or not that ends up in your spam folder is unfortunately out of our control. But I think the idea with transparency and communication is that there is some sort of indication letting you know what the next step is until you hear that, you know, there's either a rejection or that you're being considered for something specific with us.
Yeah, there's
Good answer. I'm just trying. I was
Yeah,
listening.
Luana got
There's
it.
nothing I can add there. That's just perfect.
so
Pro.
what an amazing articulate speaker.
I try.
Okay, one last question before we wrap it up, which is, what is Netflix Animation doing for emerging talent that might be different from what you might be seeing in other studios and other parts of the industry?
I think this one's mine, right?
Yeah,
So
Robin.
we have started the Netflix Emerging Animation Talent Program, which has at its core the desire to give people a way into the studio system. We're working with our productions to create a bit of a runway. So a 4-month training period to kind of bring people in, acclimate them to the studio, get them working in a production environment, and then after that 4 months, looking to land them in the role. What we're trying to do different, I think, is to engage deeper into communities. So we're not requiring formal art education because there are people out there that's an economic barrier. You know, they can't afford to go to school. Or internships. Internships imply that that person can take time away from their life to go do this and live without payment. And our roles are paid. These training roles are paid. We want to make sure that people can sustain or better their life by going through this. So no formal art education necessary. This is COVID time, so you can work remotely, which changed the whole dynamic of this because now we can look at candidates that are not US based. And if we can make the time changes work and we can get the shows, you know, there are certain international laws that we have to follow. But if all of that works, we can bring in somebody from anywhere in the globe to take on one of these roles. And then when everything, fingers crossed, goes back to normal, right? Come on over. We can bring you into the studio system. The goal is not just to train, the goal is to launch careers. And so it's more of a sustainable program than just an internship or something brief. We really want to make that leap to launch.
I love it. I love it. Panelists, you are remarkable. So the last thing I want to do before we totally wrap this up is, what is the best way to reach out to you folks? What social media or other place? I'm going to start with Ramil.
Sure. I think my best place to reach out to me is Instagram right now or LinkedIn. At LinkedIn, you can find me at Ramil Baggio. I think my name's going to be there. It's kind of a mess. For Instagram, it's at ram_at_work. So ram at work.
How about you, Amelia?
Yeah, Instagram's definitely the best for me. My handle's Amelia_recruits. I also am on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. But Instagram's the best for me. I just love going through it. I will say I'm not always the quickest to respond because, as you can imagine, my DMs are I can't even think of the word to describe them. But I do get back to everyone because that's the best way to reach out to me. And I think it's great. And like I said, tag me in photos. I love to see people's work. I actually love it. You guys think I'm scared? No, I'm so excited to see more art.
I love it. I love it. Robin, how about for you?
I'm kicking it old school. I am on LinkedIn. So just look up Robin Allen Lynn, Linn on LinkedIn.
Luana, how about you?
I'm on the Instagrams at luana.k.recruits.
Love it. Okay, everybody, you heard it. Reach out to these wonderful, wonderful people. Thank you so much for tuning into today's panel. It's been great to talk with everybody, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for hosting, Jane.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you. Awesome.